All right, folks, we're going to call the meeting to order. USBE monthly board meeting is in session. We're thankful for board members, our staff, and the public for joining us today. Want to extend a thanks to our Highway Patrol officer. Joining us today is Ryan Gurney, as always, keeping us safe. Thank you for being with us. I also want to briefly extend a welcome to a couple folks that you'll hear from in a little bit as part of a board member comment, but we're thankful to have Representative Ryan Wilcox, Principal Shauna Haney, SRO Colton Johansson of the Ogden Police Department, and the Ogden Chief of Police Eric Young joining us today, and you'll hear from them through board member Carey in a moment. So thank you all for joining us. We do have a very full agenda. We look forward to doing the people's business and doing it as efficiently as we can. Thank you to all board members for all the hard work you've put in. We've got a lot of agenda items on the menu today, and so thank you for the public and our board and our staff for all the work that goes into this, and we look forward to having some good discussion today. So I've asked Member Klein to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Board Member Carey, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Moss, and I would like to recognize Chair Moss because I know that maybe it's a bit unusual, but I know that on a March 29th, because I've spoken to most of the board members about it, you know, we were having another day in the week when maybe it was a phone call or a text message, but all of a sudden we started hearing reports of awful things happening at schools around the state. And I know that we all reacted to them, and thank goodness it turned out not to be true, those reports. But the consequences, even though the threat wasn't real, the consequences were very real. And since that time, I've had the opportunity of attending a meeting with Representative Wilcox invited me to attend a school safety task force meeting, and just to hear the audio and hear what happened that day, it just put on a new and very powerful, different perspective. And I just wanted to invite Representative Wilcox and Principal Shauna Haney from Ogden High School, SRO Colton Johansson, and Chief of Police Eric Young. And I just asked them to take maybe 2 to 3 minutes each just to share with the board what went right that day. Because a lot of things did go right. And it doesn't mean that we don't have a lot to do in terms of school safety, but I just wanted them to share in their experience what happened. And Ogden High School was one of the first schools that day to receive the threat. And that's why I asked them to be here. So if you could all come up and take a seat at the table. Do we need one more chair? Is there? Thank you, Patty. So if we could just take it in this order with Principal Haney, if you don't mind going first, and then SRO Johansson, Chief Young, and then we'll end with Representative Wilcox. And just ask that you press the speak button when you're speaking so the microphones can pick it up. So Principal Haney, thank you.
Okay, so interestingly enough, I was not in the school when this happened. I was actually at UHSAA with Mr. Straight here. We were in a meeting down there, and I was in a meeting, and I got a phone call on my cell phone from my husband, who is a police officer and has been for 26 years. And I declined it and said, I'm in a meeting. And then he texted me and he said, there's an active shooter. And I said, where? And he said, Ogden. And I immediately got up from the table, and like, it was scary for the first for several minutes, which felt like a really long time. I walked out, felt really shaky, started calling, and then am realizing it's a hoax. I know that at this point, my school is in lockdown, right? They've taken all of the necessary measures that they need to. So I went from there and got back to the school, right, as soon as possible. But the one thing I would have to say is our resource officer is probably the epitome of calm and courageous. And I think because of that, and because of our relationship with the Ogden Police Department and the resource officers that they provide for us, I think our students and our teachers, our staff, everyone from the cafeteria workers and beyond, I think they feel safe. Were they scared? Yes. People were scared, teachers were scared, right? And I think that because we'd practiced some of these lockdown procedures, the things that went right we knew what to plan for. And another thing that went right is we were able to communicate and sit down with the Ogden Police Department a couple weeks later and go through how can we get better, how can we be stronger to make sure that we are taking care of our students and our teachers and everyone in our building. So Officer Johansson has been amazing to work with. He builds relationships with our kids, so he's not just there to, enforce or, right? He keeps us safe, but he also has built relationships with our students and our parents, and he makes our community and our entire school better. So I will turn that time over to him because he was there and is the real hero in this. And even though it was a hoax, it was treated, obviously, as a serious threat. So I'll turn that over to him.
Well, thank you for the kind words. You hope it never happens to your school, and when it came in, it seemed pretty real. So a lot of things that went right that day. Obviously, the local law enforcement, we take the time to train them to take care of an active shooter. So the call went out over dispatch. That's how it came in, is through dispatch. So they made a tone, and that tone basically notified everybody that was close to Ogden High to show up. So when it came through, I notified dispatch that I was there on scene and that I couldn't see anything or hear anything. Class was in session, so I knew I had about 100 officers responding from different areas. It went fairly quickly. I cleared the certain bathrooms that they stated that the incident was occurring in, and once that happened and I got a hold of the staff that was down there, I said, do you have anything? And they said, we've got nothing. And so things weren't really playing out, but at that time we decided to go into lockdown because I had a bunch of officers coming in. With the training with the school and the school district and the opportunities they provide for us to do that with the students and with the faculty, we didn't have any issues with the lockdown procedure. Law enforcement, we've always trained them to respond to the active shooter. They responded. The nice thing is they received directive pretty well. So a couple outbuildings that I had that were separate from the main building, I told them I didn't have anything in the main building, and so they went and cleared the other buildings really quickly. So it was just a matter of minutes before we knew that it probably wasn't real. And from that point, it was just basically organizing the teams, because I had a lot of officers there, organizing the teams and making sure and going through room to room and from everywhere possible to make sure that it wasn't real. So from the time that call came in to the time that we cleared everybody for the day was about 58 minutes. So it went really well, really smoothly. And so, it's not me. There's a lot of other team players in this that took effect and made it successful. And hopefully the few things that we did, we'll learn from it and make better when it happens. Hopefully not, but if it happens again. So thank you.
Thanks. So Colton's kind of shy to talk about his attributes, but in addition to being calm, cool, and collected, as Principal Haney mentioned, he's a longtime member of our Ogden Metro SWAT team and one of the most experienced operators that we've had in the history of the SWAT team. So there wasn't a better person to be at Ogden High that day to deal with it if it would have been a real threat. The reality is, from the 10,000-foot level that I look at, and I'll echo what Principal Haney said, I was in St. George at the Chiefs Police Conference. So just something to think about with that is everything's, oh, you weren't there. Well, if you've got the right organization with the right culture, the right strategic plan, and the people who know how to execute that, things are going to go right regardless who's there and who's not there, because everybody knows how to step in and take care of their roles. So that's why things went well regardless of who's there, because things work well at Ogden High School either way, and things work well at our police department, whether I'm there or whether I'm with my mayor at the Chiefs Police Conference in St. George. So as I was mentioning, the biggest risk really once that's a hoax is an officer getting into an automobile accident in such a hurry to get there, because our officers do race very quickly to get there when they know it's that kind of a threat. The thing that went well for us to prevent that from happening is, number one, as Colton mentioned, he was able to quickly assess and realize, I don't see anything that's leading me to believe there's a real threat here. Got that information out quickly, which starts to slow officers down. We're fortunate in the Ogden Police Department. We were one of the first mid-sized agencies in the United States to have a real-time crime center. It's now titled our Area Tactical Analysis Center. We had 4 or 5 analysts sitting in a center as soon as that call came in. They heard it. It's live on the radio. They know it as soon as everybody else knows it. Immediately analyzing that call to see the background information. They quickly assessed that it was a voice over IP number that made that call, and it was based out of an internet IP address out of California. So all the things quickly came together to realize it's highly unlikely we've got a student in a bathroom calling from a voice over IP phone from California. So all that information comes together to quickly make officers in the field aware that, hey, it's not time to go, as fast as you possibly can. It's time to go, but you need to slow down and be safe and cautious. So that's a good thing that happens. It was the best opportunity we could have had to actually exercise what we train so well. Unfortunately, it's an exercise that causes a lot of trauma for students, teachers, and everybody else involved. And the school district and the city got together to make sure that those needs were taken care of. Our mobile crisis outreach team that we work with in the police department was on scene to help students. Weber Human Services brought counselors to the scene to help students and teachers to make sure to know that that was aware. And for the parents, it was obviously traumatic as well. But I think what eased their minds the most is to know that the police were there immediately and the rest of the police were there very quickly afterwards. And so the last thing I'll say, though, is things went well that day, more than anything because it was a hoax. But we have to operate in the world now where the reality is we can't expect them to be hoaxes. And no matter what we do and we do right, there's risk. Even if our SRO is there on the scene and eliminates the threat right away, we're still going to lose some students in these situations. High schools are soft targets, and they're targets now. And in your roles, you have to understand that's our reality. And so we need to be looking at things to do to make our schools safe so that kids are comfortable in that learning environment. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for your sobering wrap-up. Hey, that morning, similarly, I was in Redmond, Utah, with a handful of other legislators and county commissioners on a totally unrelated assignment. And I got the phone call from the speaker's office that said, Representative Wilcox, there's an active shooter at Ogden High School. There are 7 fatalities. Where are you? We need you here. That was the first message that came through. It came in through our hospital system. It didn't come through our emergency response system. It came in from Acadia Hospital, which is also a hospital in Ogden, my hometown. For about a half hour, we believed, and appreciate Officer Johansson being on site, and we'll talk about that in a minute about things that went right, but it was real. Worst case scenario had already happened. We just went through all of this stuff through the interim to try to prepare, to identify our liabilities, to recognize what we needed to change, and we were too late. And so I left that meeting. I happened to be with former Representative Lee Perry, who was my predecessor as the chair of law enforcement, which is why I'm involved in any of this, not because I'm an education expert or anything of the sort, but because I have that assignment. And so I turned to Lee, told him what was happening, said, I need you to take care of everything here. I have to leave. And that was it. And so the colleagues that were with me elected to join me on the furious drive back, speaking of how quickly we try to get to a scene. And they got to hear all of the coordination that was happening. They got to hear me notify the vice chair. They got to hear me talk to the governor's office and coordinate back and forth as we were trying to figure out. Within about, like I said, 20 minutes to a half hour, we knew it was probably a hoax. We'd already had the call in Logan. Around the state, they started to hit Davis County, Salt Lake County, Utah County, Iron County, St. George, all over. And the reports started coming in from the details. And this is where, and I appreciate Joe, I'm not sure what to refer to you as, a council member? Like, what do we, board member, Carrie? Thank you, Joe. I almost said Representative Carrie. Digging into the details here, because that's, when it was mentioned that we couldn't have had a better drill, I hate even saying that, because we believed it was real though, our hospitals cleared their rooms. We had all 6 operating rooms at McCady Hospital clear within minutes. Surgeons were brought in. Same thing happened at Ogden Regional. Same thing happened at other hospitals around the system, around the state. So the good things that happened that day, the things we learned, there is no replacement for having an SRO that knows the school, knows the kids. This is not a thing, right? On site, when he hears the bathroom thing. We're talking about a foreign operator in this case, just so everybody understands, in a hostile country. So the FBI is involved. We're working on that. We don't have an arrest yet or anything good news like that to share with you. We're worried about, the test itself. So we learned a lot from that day. We also have a lot of stories like this. The video footage coming out of Spanish Fork of the officer there doing the opposite of what happened in other communities, running, sprinting to what he believed was an active threat. There's a lot of work to do. You notice House Bill 61 has a lot of different aspects. It's everything from technology to training to equipment, all of it in the vein of ensuring that our kids don't notice that it's there. So that they just show up, they learn, they're worried about English, they're learning about whatever it is their teacher has assigned for them that day. And because of the preparation that happened here in Ogden High School, that was largely able to continue despite the disruption. These are increasing, these hoax calls, there's swatting. There's 300 and something of them that have already happened this year in the United States. At one point, the caller that called in, by the way, he's not calling into 911, he's calling into general numbers for the dispatch center so that they can't be tracked as easily. And then they get transferred to 911, so he knows that. When these things are happening, they are an unfortunate reality of our societal decline, it seems. And so it's left to us to prepare as best we can. I have 12 pages of notes from the debrief in Ogden alone. All right, we've got a lot of data coming in and how we're going to make this better. The School Security Task Force starts up again this month. We'll have some final recommendations by November. I encourage you, if you have any questions, I'm happy to give you a more detailed briefing of what happened that day and what we might do going forward. But please reach out and stay in conversation with us as we go through this. And I know y'all have representation on that task force, but I don't want to take any more time. You have like a crazy long agenda. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Back to you, Member Carey. Did you want to sum up?
I just want to say thank you. I'm not allowed to speak for the board, and that's a good thing, but on behalf of myself, I just want to say thank you. And I know this repeated itself in every community where there was a hoax call, but thank you for coming in and sharing, and Chair Moss.
Thank you all. Thank you for being in the trenches. Thank you for being there when this stuff happens that terrifies everybody. And so we sleep better knowing you're out there. And like you said, this is one of those drills that you don't plan, and yet you see the response. So we greatly appreciate all of your service. I think there would be a lot of questions. Unfortunately, when we do board member message is not the forum, but I think as we move into implementing the bill that you mentioned, there's probably a lot of questions, and we can turn back to you through Member Carey or through you and ask those questions. So we greatly appreciate your being here and sharing that with us, and look forward to further discussion. So thank you very much for all your.
Chair.
All right. let's move to our education highlight with Kelsey James. And for board members, I regret that we couldn't spend another half hour asking questions. We could have had some, I think, a lot of dialogue there, but let's plan for that another time. And if you have things on your mind from that discussion that we just had, please shoot those to board member Carey or leadership, and let's facilitate a follow-up so we can learn more from these good folks that joined us. So thank you, and Kelsey, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. Kelsey James, Board Communications Coordinator. I always love this opportunity to have a moment to reflect on some of the great things happening in our schools, charter and district schools across the state. So this month we're going to be looking at PAMST, and I just want to flag for everyone, and I'm sure they're aware, but this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. So we want to share our teacher appreciation in all forms, and this is a very timely opportunity for us to recognize some of the best teachers that we have in Utah. So just as a quick background, what is PAMST or PAMST or PAMST? I'm told by Lindsay that is the correct way to say that. What is it? So it stands for the Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. So these are all of our math, computer science, STEM, biology, all of those educators are eligible for that award. It does alternate year to year from elementary to secondary. So this year is secondary. All these wonderful people in front of you are secondary math and science teachers, so they are eligible for this award every other year. The awardees are chosen by the president and receive a certificate signed by the president, a paid trip for 2 to Washington, D.C., where they get to do everyone's favorite thing, which is networking. And I know teachers actually really appreciate that opportunity because they learn from each other. You can have all the professional development in the world, but to hear from another teacher who's in the classroom just like you is a really great opportunity. And then also a $10,000 award from the National Science Foundation. There's also a lot of recognition for our finalists from state and local leaders, so they get recognized by their Utah Science Teachers Association, local chapters, recognition from their school and district leadership. We have them in front of you today. There's also an event on May 11th to recognize all the state finalists, which, if you're interested, is being live streamed, so you can take a look at that. And just like our Utah Teacher of the Year, they also have the opportunity to make their voice heard and participate on things like standards writing committees and various opportunities like that, which we know is everyone's favorite. So I am going to turn it over to Lindsay Henderson, who is our secondary mathematics specialist. Her and Milo, who you have all come to know through the standards process for the secondary science standards, headed up the committee to choose the finalists this year. So I'm going to turn it over to her to kind of go over what it looks like to apply and become a finalist here in Utah.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. Lindsay Henderson, secondary math specialist, and I am so excited. This is one of my favorite parts of my job is to celebrate the amazing presidential awards for excellence in math and science teachers. So these are our finalists, and we're also joined by one online as well she's so dedicated, couldn't make it out of her classroom, and she's here online, and we're so happy to see her as well. These 5 individuals represent the absolute cream of the crop in Utah for math and science education. And it's the application process is more than just being nominated. These individuals spent at least, it must be 36 hours. They wrote reports, they talked about their pedagogy, they cited evidence-based practices. They talked about the teacher moves that they did in their class to elicit wonderful student understandings and student experiences. They got letters of recommendation from community members, parents, administrators, peers, and then they also talked about all of their involvement that they have in the local Utah math and science ecosystem. And these 5 individuals are our finalists for 2023, and they are an amazing representation of the wonderful strengths and talent that we have in our thriving math and science education community, and I'm just so honored to have them here with me. I would love it if you could wave when I say your name. We have Joanne Brown from Olympus High in Granite School District. We're honored with Wesley Morgan from Nebo School District at Springville High School. We have Karen Feld Taylor, and she's in Alpine District at American Fork Junior High. And we have Todd Vaudry. He is at West High School in Salt Lake City School District. And Melissa Brown, who is from Jordan School District at Riverton High. And I would just love it if you could join me in celebrating these amazing individuals. And I feel like a proud parent right now. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you, Lindsay, so much for that. And thank you again to our wonderful teachers who were able to join us on Zoom, and 4 out of the 5 in person, which, you know, when it's a Thursday morning and there's a lot of districts doing state testing, this is a crazy time of year. So again, just such appreciation. If you have a moment, or if any of these teachers are in your district, I really do encourage you to reach out to them and talk to them about their experience and what they do in their classroom, because it's some great stuff that they're doing. So we really appreciate them and all the teachers here in Teacher Appreciation Week. And I'm open for any questions, or Lindsay, I'm sure, would be happy to answer any questions. And I think that wraps it up.
Vice Chair Hart's got a question.
As a principal, I know how uncomfortable it is to be among adults and standing there and receiving recognition. You'd much rather be in the classroom, I'm sure. Teaching is a family affair. Do you have any family members with you today that we need to recognize? No, you came on your own? Okay, well, congratulations for that. Again, I know how. Excellent. Thank you so. Oh, good. Well, to the family members also, congratulations and thank you for your support. It really does take a village. You really are doing the yeoman's work. You are doing the real work. We're just here to support and make it easier to do the thing that you love. And it's just such an honor. Thank you for doing the paperwork. Thank you for doing. There they are! Yay! You really are amazing, and the work that we do is all in support of you. So thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time out to be here today.
Chair Moss.
Thank you. And sorry, we're not letting you go quite yet. Superintendent Dixon.
Yeah, thank you. I have known some of these people since I think they were kids. But the thing I wanted to point out is, you know, there's this moment in time when you all get recognized, but you have been consistently amazing through your career. The thing I know about all of you is that you are learners, persistent learners, while you are trying to embed learning into your classrooms at high levels, and you care so deeply about your students. But one of the things I want to give you a shout out about is how willing you are to share with your peers and to engage in professional learning and really create cultures of learning around you. And some of you have been doing that for a very long time. Joanne and I swear 20 years ago, we were trying to improve conditions for new teachers. And Joanne, as a new teacher who had gone through induction, helped me revamp an induction process in Granite District. And so just like from the onset of your careers, you all have been so willing to lean in. And I've witnessed most of you doing that work, and just so grateful for the broadening perspective that you have beyond your own classroom. So thank you for your leadership. Really appreciate it.
Member Norton.
I'll just take a minute, but as a board member who, as a teacher, has been a judge of what you have just accomplished, to say that it was a long process doesn't even begin to touch the amount of work they went in, on top of all the great things they're doing in their classroom. I mean, when I was judging, you had to do an unedited video. Is that still on the list? Yep, unedited, long video that is really a challenge to put forth. It's not an application, it's basically a book that you write. It takes months to just say, yeah, I'll be a nominee for this award. So we're so grateful because now we get to show that Utah has the greatest teachers, and we are so proud of you and appreciate all the work you do, and to have our students love math and science because they are in your classrooms is going to change our world. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much. And yes, let's give you a final round of applause. Does that wrap up our spotlight?
Yes, I'm just going to say two last things. If you're looking for any more information, there is a whole webpage dedicated to PAIMST on our schools.utah.gov website, so you can take a look there. There's also a link to the federal page about it. And then many of you may know Nathan Ock, who is our STEM coordinator here. He was actually a 2013 math awardee, so he was picked by the president and received this award. So we do have some of the best here at USB.
Thank you, Kelsey. Perfect timing for Teacher Appreciation Week, and thank everyone for their effort in participating here today.